Hello shooters, thank you for watching Tie Iron Channel. Today's episode of Man vs. Gun is the Ruger LC9. So let's see how it does on the Man vs. Gun protocol.
Man vs. Gun.
Before we get in the spreadsheet about packaging or things of that nature, I am going to speak with respects to the LC9 on that topic. The packaging is nothing special, which I don't really give a rip about, because I don't keep them in the box anyway. It comes with a little pouch kind of thing to keep the gun in, and you know, all the blah blah. There's a couple of, you need a little tool to take the gun down. Spare, you can put this on instead of the pinky extension, and it comes with a lock, obviously. What is conspicuously absent is a spare magazine. The LC9 comes with one magazine. Ruger, that is embarrassing. It should come, all semi-automatic handguns should come with at least 2 magazines, and the better manufacturers are putting 3 magazines in there these days. So Ruger, shame on you. Get your act together and ship it with at least 1 spare magazine. Okay, let's get to the weight on this thing. It weighs 1.1 ounces. Our standard is the Glock 17. It weighs 1.11 ounces, so let's see how many rounds it takes to equal the Glock. So the Ruger LC9 plus 23 rounds equals the same weight as the Glock 17. At the widest point, which is the thumb safety, the LC9 is 1.055 inches. So it is very lightweight, it's very thin, so it gets highest marks possible there. It's a little bit too small to be a service-size handgun. I guess it could be, but I don't know who would use it as a service-size handgun. I did give it a 2 there. It's a perfect size for concealed carry purposes, so it gets a 5 there. It can marginally be a pocket gun, so it gets a 3 there. Its littler brother, and you can tell that it was a Ruger took their LCP, which is, this is the 380. This is a true pocket gun, and they just upscaled it for the 9mm. And this kind of is illustrative also of, you know, when people say, oh, 380 is not that much less powerful. Well, it takes a much bigger gun to contain the pressures and the recoil involved with the 9 than it does a 380. So this is a pocket gun. This can be a pocket gun, but it's quite a big pocket gun, so it gets a 3 for being a pocket gun. The receiver is made out of plastic. It's got quite a high bore axis for being such a little gun. Notice how far my hand away is from the center of the bore line. It's quite a bit. So, and that does translate into a little bit more muzzle flip than I get with like a Smith & Wesson Shield or something like that. I don't know why it is such a high bore axis like that, but it is what it is. So it gets a 3 for receiver design with no upgrades. The back strap is what it is. There's a little bit of checkering there, but it is not adjustable. It is what it is there. You get what you get. The grip angle is a little bit different than what I'm used to. When I grab this LC9 and I close my eyes and thrust it out and then open my eyes, I do have the front end going down quite a bit. I have to bring the nose up to find the front sight. That's just, you know, some people this grip angle will fit great. For me, it doesn't work out so well. There is no downgrade for the grip angle, because some people this fits well, some people doesn't. That's why there should be adjustable back straps, so that the grip angle can be changed so it would fit me and fit other people. This is going to fit some people, it won't fit others. The side panels they have good checkering. They do kind of dip in though, which is kind of weird. You might be able to see it on the camera. They actually go, you can see it when the mag's out for sure. Let me drop the mag out. Look at that shape there. The grip goes in, which I don't find helpful. Maybe some people do. I think the grip would be better if it was flat, because our fingers don't do a good job of wrapping around there and going in something. I don't like the design of that very well. It shouldn't go in. It should be flat if nothing else. Flat would give you better purchase. If I do that, I got to really think about taking my fingertips and trying to bury them in there. Because if I just grab the gun, they don't go in there at all. And I noticed when I was shooting that I had to readjust my grip a couple times because of this, the way that drops in there like that. I don't know why Ruger did that, but it is what it is. Okay, let's go on to trigger pull. Trigger pull is long and not too heavy. It's right around 8 pounds. It's gritty, but it's a long pull, and it is the same every time. In other words, this is a double action pull. There's no question it's a double action. You can see it cock the hammer and drop the hammer. That's the definition of a double action. Every time. So even after the gun fires, notice back in double action mode. So this is a double action only handgun. The design of the trigger is such that it's not comfortable. I shot, you know, about 200 rounds through it, but even after like 20 or 30, my finger right here was sore because there's kind of a trigger slap going on there. I don't know. I didn't like the trigger pull. It did get highest possible marks for being the same trigger pull every time, but it's not a comfortable trigger pull. Like on a Smith & Wesson 3rd generation 5906, that trigger pull is sweet going all the way through. It doesn't hurt. Same with a Beretta M9. That trigger pull doesn't hurt the trigger finger during firing. This one did hurt mine. It wasn't a pleasant experience to shoot. The magazine well is flared slightly. There's a little bit of a bevel on 3 sides there. So with magazine well flared, it's not flared very much though. So I gave it a 2 out of 5. The magazine design, I gave it a 3 out of 5. They should, you know, Smith & Wesson M&P, the shield, they did a great job because it's a little bit thicker down here at the bottom. It'll hold more rounds for the same height and not exceed the width as this thing will. So this carries less rounds than the Smith & Wesson shield, even though they're almost identical in size. So the magazine, it works, but another reason it got a 3 is it doesn't always lock the slide back during live fire. A couple times during live fire, more than a couple times, seems like about 30% of the time, it did not lock the slide back. So that is what it is. The magazine base plate is somewhat one-handed friendly. It's kind of flat though. I tried it on a couple different surfaces and it is possible, but it's not very easy to use one hand to pull the magazine out when you got a Type 3 malfunction. If it had a little bit more of a hook there, this checkering does help. There is checkering on that pinky extension, but it doesn't help a lot. Ease of seating, it does go in, so there is some slack there, some play, which is what we want there, so it got highest marks possible there. The magazine release is kind of flat. It doesn't stick out very much. I mean, which is, I guess it's kind of good. You really have to want to hit it to hit it. It is only on one side. So the magazine release, I gave it a 3 for the design. Location is a 5. And since it's only on one side, it doesn't get any points for there. Okay, the safety selector, it's right here. But since the bore axis is so high, it's not easy to reach. And it works opposite how it ought to. See, it kind of rotates down around an axis that's over here somewhere. So when you try and put it on with your thumb, you should be able to put it on. You would think you'd push on this part of the lever to put it on, but you don't. You have to push on the back part. If you push on the front part there, you won't be able to get it. You will, but it's difficult to get it safe. Push on the back part and it goes up pretty easy. So the point about which it pivots is up there somewhere. So it's just kind of a funky design, especially since it's so far up there out of the way. So I gave the safety a 4 and the location is a 4. I probably ought to downgrade that to a 3 though. It is not mirror image, it is only one side. If you do have to use your left hand, it's going to be kind of difficult to take off. See how far I had to totally break my grip and bring my finger back. So, you know, it is what it is. The slide catch release is okay. It works okay as a catch most of the time. About 30% of the time during live fire, it failed to lock back. And it's difficult during live fire to get the slide to go forward. It's much easier to come over the top and just pull the magazine, pull the slide back a little bit and let it go. So I think if they're going to have a slide catch, it should also be something you can easily use to let the slide go forward. That's not the case on this gun. So it gets a 2 for the design of the magazine catch, slide catch. It gets a 3 for the location. It sticks out kind of. If the safety wasn't there, this would stick out a long ways compared to the rest of the gun. And there's no fence here to prevent putting it on accidentally. You don't have to worry about taking it off accidentally, because it doesn't come off easy at all. It doesn't come down when the slide is back. But you could inadvertently push that up so there should be a little fence around there. The rear sight is adequate. It is drifted. You can drift it for windage. It's not a bad sight picture. I'd like to see a little bit taller with a little bit deeper notch than it has. The front sight's better than the rear sight. I have no idea about the aftermarket support if you could switch this out. This rear sight, as you can see, is sloped really nice, so it's impossible to grab onto anything if you have to manipulate the slide one-handed. You're out of luck. It sucks on that end. The front sight does give a better sight picture than the rear sight does, and it is drifting. You can replace it. It looks like you can. I don't know what aftermarket support is there for the front sight either. Another thing that I'll just hit upon this LC9, because it's unlike all the other handguns we have looked at to date. This one, you actually have to take a little piece out of the gun in order to dismantle the gun. There's that round portion right there, and there's a pin in there that you got to push from the other side. You can use this won't work. You can't use a bullet. There's those little tools they give you in the box. A handcuff key will also work, but that pin there comes all of the way out of the gun. It doesn't stay in. It's not held in by anything. So if you're doing this out in the field to take the gun apart and you lose that little bar and it's not very big, you're SOL. So Ruger, this is a really bad design on how to field strip this thing, to have a pin that's not captured. When the pin comes out, it's out. If you lose it, you're done. So that's just another design flaw that I see with the gun. Another design flaw with the Ruger LC9 is it does have a magazine disconnect. That means the gun can be cocked, ready to rock. I can pull the trigger, the gun works. Let's say there's a round in the chamber. The magazine is out, it locks up. Can't be used. I dislike this feature. It can be removed. It shouldn't ever be there. Even on the LCP there, little 380, which is what they upscaled that one for, you can fire this thing with the magazine out. When they took it up to 9mm, you take the magazine out, it can't be fired. So, another design flaw. There is no ability to put a conventional light on here. There's no pick rail. It's just too small and thin. And there's no way to put a red dot sight on this either. One thing I did want to point out that I don't like at all, and it's not just Ruger's fault, some other gun makers have it, it's this loaded chamber indicator here. This is a waste of machining time, it's a waste of parts, it's a waste of a spring. Do not trust your life to these kind of things. All this tells you is that something is holding that bar up. It doesn't mean it's around. It could be dirt, it could be, could be a primer that got stuck underneath there or something. Do not trust these. The only way to know if you got a round in the chamber is to check. You pull the slide back a little bit and you feel in there. If you got it, you're good to go. If you don't, it doesn't matter what this lever says. So Ruger, if you're listening, which you're probably not, Get rid of those levers. They're ridiculous. They don't do anything. So let's go to the range and shoot this thing, and then I'll give my final thoughts. Because the grips kind of dive in, they go in on both sides. I felt like I had a hard time really getting a good purchase on the gun. I had to readjust my grip, every couple of rounds. I'm restricted at the range that I'm at, that I can't shoot more than 1 round a second, which sucks, but most indoor ranges are like that. Here I got on film where it failed to lock back. I pull the trigger and I get a click, and then I even pull it back and it doesn't lock back. The second time it does. Final thoughts on the Ruger LC9. It has a lot of design flaws. But, having said all that, it is reliable. It ate through 250 rounds that I shot through it. I shot around 200 training rounds and around almost 50 premium rounds through it. I wanted to see how it was. It worked. It failed to lock back a lot, but, every time I stuffed a bullet in it, the slide came back, it ejected the old round and picked up the new round, and it fired. It wasn't a pleasant experience to fire because the trigger is kind of funky. It hurts the finger, but it did work, and it's not like you're going to notice that in a gunfight, right? So you're not going to be complaining about the finger. So if you have a Ruger LC9, post your experiences down below. Wouldn't be my first choice in a carry handgun, but it wouldn't be my last either. So thank you for watching, and as always, ensure that your training and your practice is preparing you for the real world, your real world, and not for the fantasy land of the shooting range. Have a nice day.